What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Pennell here. Go my first look for week 8 of the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel. More of a laid-back, casual video. On Saturday, we'll go game by game, break it all down, talking cash games, tournament stacks, and run the optimizer. But it's only Tuesday, so we don't know all the injury situations that are going to pop up throughout the entire week. We don't know what changes coaches are going to end up making. So we're just taking a first look at the slate, the pricing, the matchups, and we'll try to build a lineup as we talk through it. So that all sounds fine and dandy to you. Well, make sure you do me a favor, leave a like down below. Sky Champ for brand new. Let's dive right into it. And really quick, if you like what you see on the screen behind me, there is that and a lot more available on my website that I built myself, cpendfs.com. You can find a link down in the description or the pinned comment. But tons of content for the classic main slate or the flagship showdowns, just data projections, tools, and other fun stuff to look at every single week. So if you want to check it out, you know where to find it. Link can be found down below. And also your first week is free if you want to try it out. And as always, we'll start with the quarterback position. I know I have quite a few on here, but there is just a couple of games that I'm really looking to target in general. But I do think it's a pretty fun slate, wide open, lots of high totals. And this one compared to other weeks, and by a lot, I mean, there's a handful. But it's better than what we usually get. And we kind of have all the elite quarterbacks in the slate besides Patrick Mahomes, so I believe is the Monday night game, not the Sunday night game. One of those two, but either way, we're not going to be able to play them on the main. But yeah, lots of good options, whether we're spending up, going down the middle, or down low. Now, I want to get this out of the way first. The Baltimore Ravens, assuming Lamar Jackson is playing. I know he missed practice on Monday, but Vegas has this at 50 points. They have the Ravens at a 29.5 total. They're 6.5 point favorites. If Lamar Jackson was not going to play, they would not hang these numbers out. So I think it's safe to assume he is going to be good to go. But like I said, it is Tuesday, so who knows? But we're going to operate under the assumption that he is playing. And if that's going to be the case, I love all the Ravens. They are way too cheap. They are priced like the worst quarterback in the world is playing. And Derrick Henry is 6K. Zay Flowers in the 5K range. And I know Lamar Jackson's more on the expensive side of the quarterbacks, but $1,600 versus Chicago, I am all about that. They're allowing the 6th most points per game in the position. I know Lamar has a smaller sample size this year, but it's just been typical Lamar things. He's been efficient touchdown-wise through the air. He's getting it down on the ground. He's playing Chicago, who's allowed the 6th most points per game to quarterbacks this year. It's a high total. They're playing at home. I love all the Ravens, so absolutely love Lamar. If you can afford him, he will be my favorite option this week. Now, I'm not here in projections or ownership, but I would have to assume he is going to be either the highest owned quarterback or very close to it is what I would assume on DraftKings. Maybe FanDuel's a little bit different. Jalen Hurts would be a pivot option. Ended up having a great game through the air last week. Who would have saw that coming? Very low ownership. If you had that, congratulations to you. I personally did not. I played Jaden Daniels, and yeah, I got hurt because he got hurt. But I don't mind Hurts just because he has the floor with the rushing touchdown upside. But the Giants have allowed the 5th most points per game to the position. They are playing at home, fairly high total. But to me personally, I kind of rather just get to Lamar. Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboys take on the Denver Broncos, 50.5 over-under in that one. I'm a little bit less on the Cowboys than I normally am. It's not that easy for teams to go on the road in Denver, in the altitude, and play their best football. As you can see, their implied team total at 23.5 is a little bit lower than we have seen pretty much in the past month or all season. They also come in as 3-point dogs. If this was in the Jerry Dome, I'd have to say it's very safe to assume that the Cowboys would have a higher total. I personally kind of like Bo Nix a little bit more, but I just like this game in general. You can stack it up quite easily. Bo Nix with a superhero performance in the 4th quarter last week. He has more rushing upside. I think both are good options. Dak Prescott, though, more so in tournaments. I think Bo Nix, if you are trying to spend down, could be fine in cash games. Just great matchup versus Dallas. They allow the most points per game to quarterbacks. Like both, but do have a slight preference towards Bo Nix. Baker Mayfield, Monday Night Football, did not look great. I think he came in with the 3rd best odds to win the MVP in that game. I have not checked the updated odds, but was a little disappointed with that performance. Unfortunately, Mike Evans, his leg didn't explode this time. It ended up being his clavicle and his head at the same time. Looked a little bit rough. I thought he died for a little bit, was not moving, but I guess he just maybe knocked himself out. But we're not going to have Mike Evans, unfortunately. But another week for Ibuka to rest up. We saw him in the previous game, and he looked fine. Tej Johnson kind of had a breakout performance. But Baker was missing high almost every single throw, it seemed like. And we had quite a few plays, even touchdowns, that Baker Mayfield ended up missing. But nice little bounce back spot potential here for against New Orleans on the road. 26.5 implied team total. Tighter spread here. Very easy to stack this up. You play Baker, you play Ibuka, you play Tej Johnson if you want, you play Kate Otten. I don't really care who, but I am going to want to double stack with Baker. And then the most obvious thing to run it back with is going to be Chris Olave, who had a great game last week versus Chicago Bears. Daniel Jones, I mean, I would prefer Jonathan Taylor. This is the dream setup for him. Highest implied team total of the week at 30.5. They are 2 touchdown favorites. Just kind of an easy spot here for him. It's just, you're paying that massive price tag, but he has been paying it off, so I have no issues if you want to go with that. But if you want to go the tournament route and play the passing game here, Daniel Jones has been very consistent this year, so I don't mind it. But I do think Bo Nix with the tighter spread would make more sense. Caleb Williams, I do like him here versus Baltimore. Now everyone's going to be enamored with the Baltimore Ravens, but on the flip side, this is probably a good way to get lower ownership. And the Ravens have actually allowed the second most points per game to quarterbacks, which sounds crazy because we know the Ravens just typically always have a great defense. Bit of a lower total here, but I don't mind it just because it is a bit cheaper. And then Joe Flacco showed some life last week on Thursday Night Football, and the Young Bowl was just a phenomenal performance. Kind of a middle-of-the-road matchup versus the Jets, but this is a team that just seems like they are getting worse and worse and worse. And I don't know if you guys saw their owner Woody's remarks today, but kind of throwing Justin Fields under the bus a little bit. He said, they asked him something about the coach, but he said, when you have a quarterback with that kind of rating, it's just what's going to happen or something, no matter who the coach is, I guess. I don't remember the exact quote. You'll have to look it up. But we know what Joe Flacco is going to do. He's going to drop back. He's going to throw the football. And when you have the two best weapons, I guess maybe the best tandem weapon in the league, maybe outside of Philadelphia with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. But I'm actually going to give Jamar Chase and T. Higgins the edge there just because of how good Jamar Chase is. I like him. 26.5 total. He's $5,400. Very easy to stack with. You don't exactly have to run it back. I believe the Bengals have been pretty soft versus tight ends this year. We saw that in the performance versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, where all 3 tight ends ended up getting to the end zone. So you could look at Mason Taylor with Tyrod Taylor under center. You get the Taylor connection there, but I think Flacco is fine if you're just looking for a cheap quarterback that's going to throw the ball around 40 times. All right, heading over to the build. Honestly, I really don't know where I want to go. There's so many good options. Bo Nix is just standing out to me. It's not just because it's that matchup that's standing out 32nd, but do like that game to stack it up. I think it's very easy just to click on Lamar Jackson and all the Ravens, which will have some exposure to that game for sure. But just for this video, let's play Bo Nix. Just because of the comeback last week, we'll give him the honor of being in the video, which means we'll have to find some stacking options with them, and then we'll have a pretty obvious bring back options. I mean, Dallas has no shortage of that. But heading over to the running back position, this honestly feels like the best running back slate of the season. It's kind of like very stars and I don't even want to say scrubs, but just compared to the top 3, very difficult to get away from. I mean, we have the 3 best running backs in the league: Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, who looks like more of a value on FanDuel. I don't know why he's $1,000 cheaper, maybe because of the matchups, I guess, but he is matchup proof. I guess the lower implied team total, so maybe that makes sense there. But Bijan Robinson versus Miami, Jonathan Taylor versus Tennessee. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, this is going to be a fun one. We have Derrick Henry at $6,000 versus the Bears. J.K. Dobbins gets the Cowboys. We have free Chase Brown with actually somewhat of a competent quarterback now who can check the ball down to running backs. We have seen that. Even though it's been a horrible year for Chase Brown, we finally got him going versus Pittsburgh. This is fun. So I don't think you're going to be able to afford all 3 spent-up running backs, but you should at least be able to get one. Now, my favorite right now is going to be Bijan Robinson. He gets the dream matchup versus Miami. They're allowing you 3rd most points per game to running backs, nearly 130 rushing yards per game. We have safe volume. He's an elite talent. They're going to pound the rock. They're at home. He's a touchdown favorite, 26.5 point implied team total. I assume he will have one of probably the 2nd best odds to score this week behind Jonathan Taylor. Nothing not to like. And Jonathan Taylor is basically the exact same play. They're both averaging right around 22.5 opportunities per game. Bijan is slightly used in the passing game more with a 20% target share compared to 11.8 for Jonathan Taylor. That's 6.5 targets and 3.5 targets, but both right around 5.3, 5.4 yards per carries. Taylor just has more touchdowns so far this year, but you cannot go wrong with either. But I do like the slight discount with Bijan, and CMC's involved in the passing game just gives him a high floor. It doesn't matter what the matchup is, and he's coming off a monster game versus the Atlanta Falcons. Now, if we're trying to save some money, I don't know if Bucky Irving is going to be back yet or not. If Bucky Irving is out, Rashad White's only $6,400 in a plus matchup. We know he'll get checkdowns. I'm okay with that if you're trying to go mid-range, but Derrick Henry right now seems to be my favorite. I know he lacks the pass catching upside, but this is a matchup where he can just kind of steamroll the defense. He did have over 100 yards in his last game, which was nice. That is a plus matchup versus the Bears, but touchdown favorite at home, 29.5 implied team total. I think it's very likely we get King Henry into the end zone. I think I saw one of his props right around 85.5 rushing yards. If we get confirmation, once we get the confirmation that Lamar Jackson is in, I could probably see that's getting steamed up to around 90, but decent chance at the bonus and the end zone this week for Henry. And I don't think we'll ever see him this cheap again. It just seems like a bit of a mispricing here. J.K. Dobbins just gets a good matchup versus the Cowboys. They're allowing the top 5 in points allowed per game to the running back position. I prefer the passing attack here just because I have Bo Nix in my specific build right now. So I'm not going to play Dobbins, but no issue with either. And then we already talked about Chase Brown. But that is a really nice price point given the fact that he actually showed some life last week with Flacco under center versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, heading over to the build here. Like I said, Bijan is my current favorite spend up. Don't really think you can go wrong with any of them though. And I'm probably not going to be able to afford both because if I am going to run it back with a Cowboy, Lamb's not cheap, Ferguson's not exactly cheap, and neither is George Pickens, so probably have to save him a little bit of money. So we don't have the passing attack for Baltimore. Not saying we can't play, say, Flowers. I mean, we can certainly do that. But I'm going to roll with Derrick Henry here at $6,000, and then we'll move on to wide receiver. Okay, wide receivers, we don't tend to take too much time here because once we talk about quarterbacks, we talk about the stacks we like, we talk about the teams, the game environments, and those are the wide receivers we like. I mean, they're just a natural pairing. Of course, in cash games, you don't always have to stack by any means. It's too early, like I said, no projections, no ownership yet, but just kind of doing the eyeball test here. I think in cash games, a lot of people probably get to guys like Chris Olave because there is good expensive running backs on this slate. So I don't think we're going to be able to spend up for the wide receivers on this one. So Chris Olave, $5,800. Cortland Sutton at $6,200. Zay Flowers at $54. Maybe some people chase the Tez Johnson hype from last week with no Mike Evans. That is certainly possible. Ted McMillan versus Buffalo in a game they should be trailing with Andy Dalton. If you want to call that an upgrade over Bryce Young, that is up to you. But I think we do have some pretty decent options overall. But, I mean, the stacking options are clear. If you have Joe Flacco, you play Jamar Chase, you play T. Higgins. I mean, Joe Flacco is not hitting a ceiling unless those guys go off. I don't think Drew Sample's catching 3 touchdowns or Noah Fant. So, double stack with Joe Flacco. I think with Bo Nix, you don't necessarily have to double stack. I'm probably going to do it. But Cortland Sutton's the obvious option. Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims. If you're playing Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, or if you're playing Lamar Jackson, those could be your 2 run back options, or just select one of them. That is perfectly fine if you have Jalen Hurts and you're hoping for a passing game like last week, which probably won't happen because people are probably going to chase it and then they'll just run the ball and he won't throw the ball. That's certainly possible too. But AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are basically the same price in matchups versus the Giants, who right now are currently bottom 5 versus wide receivers. So it is a plus matchup for them if you're playing Baker Mayfield, Ibuka, Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard, whoever you want to do. That is perfectly fine as well. All right, back to the build here. I'm kind of curious of where I'm going to go because I would like to play another good running back, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have the money for it. I know for sure since I have Bo Nix, I'm going to play Cortland Sutton. We could play Marvin Mims or Troy Franklin if we wanted to for the double stack, but honestly, we might just end up going with Evan Engram at $4,100 because I really don't want to run it back with Jake Ferguson at $6K. Not saying he's not going to be worth it potentially, but seems a little steep for me. So unfortunately, we're probably going to have to play CeeDee Lamb. Not unfortunately because he's awesome, but CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens. These are not going to project out as the best point per dollar plays. And the matchup is tough. I mean, this is not an easy spot versus Denver, but we're building a tournament build, and I always do a run back option. You don't necessarily have to, but we're going to chase a high scoring game environment. So we'll go with CeeDee Lamb. That's a lot of money. We do have a cheap defense we can throw in, cheaper tight end, I guess, but it might be a little tough. We will see if we can make it, but if not, we might have to rearrange some things. Maybe even drop off one of the elite running backs, which I don't really want to do. And never really a fun thing to talk about, but we do have tight ends on the slate, and we do have to play one of them at least. So we have Jake Ferguson. He's been money this year. We know that. CeeDee Lamb came back. He still caught 2 touchdowns. He's running routes on 67% of the time. ADOT is low, but, I mean, the targets are high. Like, he has 8.3 targets per game this year. He's catching 7.3 of them. 22.4% target share, and nearly getting a touchdown per game. Do I love the spot versus Denver? No, but I like the game environment. I like the projected high score. They're going to throw the ball a lot. I mean, he's not going to get blanked out here. Tyler Warren has been extremely consistent and awesome this year, averaging over 60 receiving yards per game this season, 21% target share, high implied team total. The only concern is they're blowing them out and he doesn't get work early. It could just be a milk fest in the second half. That is the only concern. And then we just kind of have cheap randomness. Evan Engram with Bo Nix, that's a great option, just to get a pairing option. I know he has not been great this year per se, but 15% target share and 5.5 targets per game, it could certainly be worse. Mark Andrews with Lamar Jackson, always has a chance for a touchdown. He's dirt cheap, 17% target share this year, but the numbers are a bit ugly. Mason Taylor, the Bengals have been getting shredded by tight ends this year. They are currently dead last. And then Dalton Schultz, we're getting an 18% target share. Nico Collins got banged up in the last game. 6.2 targets per game. I don't hate that at a very cheap price point. All right, back to the build. Let's finish this off. I'm going to be honest, just kind of thinking, I really don't think we're going to fit what I want to do. I might have to come off Bijan just because we're force feeding CeeDee Lamb. It's not the optimal route to go, but it's just the way we're going to have to do it for this specific build. So unfortunately, I think we got to come off Bijan because I do double stack and put in Evan Ingram. He's not exactly free. It's not really breaking the bank. But honestly, defense looks completely terrible. I'm considering the Jets here, but I might just drop off of Bijan because if I do throw the Jets in here, do I like them? No, but I got to find a cheap one. So these are $4,400. I really don't like any of the cheap wide receivers much. I mean, there's a couple. Like if we wanted to go Marvin Mims instead of Evan Ingram, we could do that. Maybe we just throw in Dalton Schultz. And for flex, that leaves us $5,700. That doesn't put us in the worst spot in the world. Like we have Ted McMillan available. We have T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, even Chase Brown. So that might work a little bit better if we did not go with Evan Ingram. And we can still fit in Bijan. We do have CeeDee Lamb in there. So I don't hate the way that build looks. So for example, we have Bo Nix double stacked with Courtland Sutton. Marvin Mims ran back with CeeDee Lamb. We still have Bijan and Derrick Henry at running back, which obviously you can't not like. Dalton Schultz in there and Jets defense, and honestly take your pick at flex. Now, if we happen to go, say, more balanced at running back and we threw in, I guess, just Chase Brown here at $5,400, that really would open some things up. Now, obviously, we'd move this around. Maybe at tight end, we put in Evan Ingram. Wide receiver, we could go with like a Chris Olave or something like that. I'm sure that would fit at $5,800. Then a flex, we'd have 64, which kind of puts you in a similar spot. I don't think we have any Bears, so Roma Dunze is there, Breece Hall, A.J. Brown, Rico Dowdle. But there's a couple of ways you could go. You could upgrade your defense too. I mean, I don't really like Jets defense. I think most likely, I don't really want to say the Bills. I really don't think there's a standout defense as of right now, unless you're spending all the way up, of course, with like the Colts or the Patriots or the Falcons. They all look fantastic, but I don't usually spend up for defense much. So let you guys use your imagination there. There's a couple ways you can go, but I don't think it's that difficult to at least get one spend up. It's just a little bit more difficult in this one because we were forcing CeeDee Lamb in for the game environment. With that being said, that's all for this week's video. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, or even if you didn't, make sure you like down below. Subscribe to the channel for brand new. If any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'm more than happy to answer them. Wish you all the best, and I'll see y'all next time.